And as we further discuss the race to the White House this morning, joining us live is the founder of Save Democracy in America, none other than Dan McMillan. Dan, good morning to you. Always a pleasure having you join us here on Live Now.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So a lot to discuss as we are looking forward to a potential debate between former President Trump and VP Harris. Also, the talk this morning, Dan, is who will VP Harris pick as her running mate in the race to the White House? If you could catch us up, please.
Well, I think if it's not Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, that is going to be a bombshell, because that all the indicators and all the sound reasons for a pick are pointing in that direction. Their overwhelming objective is to win in November. Everyone agrees in both parties, but for both parties, Pennsylvania is a must-win. Shapiro is a very popular governor of Pennsylvania. Both parties, for example, are investing twice as much in ad spending between now and November, at least what they've booked, than they are spending in any other swing state. So this is a must-win state. Shapiro is clearly the best, candidate for helping her win. Also, he's a good candidate because he's very much a moderate. That will help overcome any accusation that Harris is too far to the left, accusations that are based on some of the positions she took when she ran in 2019. He's also a very good campaigner and a very good speaker, so he's a terrific surrogate. He adds a lot of energy to the ticket. Also, as a white man, that makes, having a woman of color at the top of the ticket seem a bit less revolutionary. For all those reasons, it's hard to imagine anyone other than Shapiro. The other, I guess, possibility would be Mark Kelly of Arizona, who's also, quite moderate and, could help win over a swing state, but he seems to run a distant second to Shapiro.
Great points you're raising this morning, Dan. Thank you so much. I want to see if you could kind of put things into perspective for us as relates to J.D. Vance and if Shapiro is named that VP running mate for Harris, because obviously two different personalities, two different outlooks on America in this climate.
Well, I mean, there are people in the Republican camp who are having buyer's remorse about Vance. I mean, Vance, the only way I can make sense of Vance as a selection is that he seemed especially MAGA and especially loyal to Trump, and that maybe Trump thought that Vance could be his successor in 2028 to sort of somehow carry forward whatever, what Trump regards as a MAGA position. But other than that, I mean, he's very young. He has only 2 years of experience in elective office. And on top of that, he can't seem to keep from putting his foot in his mouth. And, when he was challenged on these statements about childless cat ladies, he's not even the least bit repentant about it. He's not willing to walk it back. He almost doubles down on that way of talking. So there too, almost anyone that Harris could have picked from the list of possible candidates would have been a better choice than Vance.
So glad you said that, Dan, because there was also controversy surrounding Vance and former President Trump about race relations as it relates to VP Harris. And, they were saying, well, she's just now calling herself a Black American. Before then, she was calling herself a woman of Indian descent. But then if you look at J.D. Vance's wife, she is a woman of Indian descent. So many people thought it was counteractive for him to bring that up when his wife is a woman of color.
Well, I think altogether for President Trump to make the statements he did, and at all places at the National Association of Black Journalists, presume to tell people that he knows better than Harris does whether she's Black. I mean, that not only is that extremely offensive necessarily to Black voters that Trump has been hoping to win over and has had some success in taking away from the Democrats, it just makes him look plain stupid. And everyone seems to say so, on both sides of the aisle. And it kind of brings into relief something else that I think how much the dynamic of this race has changed, because I think a lot of Trump's weaknesses as a candidate, and he's got a lot of vulnerabilities. He's in many ways very unpopular. These weaknesses have been masked for such a long time in this race by Biden's age. I think Biden is just way too old. He should never have run for a second term, no later than the beginning of this year. I think the party's been demoralized, Democratic Party, and Biden's age has been, even when not the most discussed in the news, has been the number one issue in this race. Now it's gone, and now all of the things that people don't like about Trump, and there are a lot of them, suddenly they become front and center in the race.
Yeah, and you mentioned Biden's age and how that was a topic of concern. They were saying his age, even his competency to remain as the commander in chief. But if you look at the race now, Trump is the elder in the race, per se. I'm not going to say old, but he's the older candidate in the race, correct? Do you think that same mudslinging will be shown to him that was shown to Biden?
Well, the thing is, I mean, he made Biden's age the number one issue. He challenged Biden to take a cognitive test. It's interesting. Also, last year, Nikki Haley repeatedly challenged both of the older candidates, Biden and Trump, to take a cognitive test. I'd be astonished if the Harris campaign doesn't challenge Trump. Say, let us both candidates submit to an impartial, a cognitive test given by some sort of impartial source, and it's a lose-lose proposition for Trump. Even if he does well on the test, just having to undergo it is kind of humiliating, and is going to put his age front and center. So, yeah, he's really in trouble, having committed himself to the age being an issue.
Dan McMillan, always a pleasure having these candid conversations with you here on Live Now. We appreciate your expertise and perspective. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you go? I know a lot of the viewers are looking ahead. We just had the Republican National Convention, and we know up next is the DNC.
Well, I think that we shouldn't underestimate what a marvelous opportunity the Democrats have been handed. I mean, they saw Biden's disastrous performance at the debate as this terrible crisis, which it was for a while, but now in some sense they've won the lottery, because they're able to ditch a losing candidate and a losing message only 3 months out from the election. They can press the reset button. They were in a race where the American people on both sides of the aisle were saying, oh gosh, is this the best we can do? Two candidates who are too old, that we've seen before and are not thrilled about, and suddenly that is a problem that only the GOP has. And the Democrats now have an opportunity to define themselves, to define their candidate, and to define their positions right where the voters are at this moment, going into the home stretch, because she didn't have to go through a competitive primary. Harris did not have to stake out any extreme positions to appease primary voters. Now, effectively, she can start with a blank slate, and they've come out of the block very quickly, made an excellent start, and set a very positive tone in the campaign for the first time in this race. So I would make no predictions, but it almost feels as if this opportunity is so great, it could be now the Democrats' election to lose, whereas until Biden stepped aside, it was absolutely the Republicans' election to lose.
Dan McMillan, is always great perspective. It's truly a pleasure speaking with you bright and early here on Live Now. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much for having me.